So let's get right to it. You leave Boston and you end up in San Francisco, but how long in between graduating from college did you get to San Francisco? What brought you to San
You're not going to
Francisco?
believe this.
Try me.
30 days. It was 30 days. I finished
Wow.
school in February. I had enough credits to graduate a half a year early.
Okay.
And I turned 21 on February 14th, 1975.
Mm.
And on March 15th, I got on a plane and went to San Francisco.
But why San Francisco?
My sister and brother-in-law and their baby had moved there. I had gone to visit them the previous Christmas vacation and said, "Oh, this is it." So I came without a job, but got one fairly quickly, and my career was off and running. Probably took off more quickly here because people were a little more chill here, whereas in the East Coast, as you well know, it's pretty
Hmm.
dog eat dog, so more
True.
competitive.
True. So you're working at it's KSAN, correct?
Well, my first job was at a radio station that no longer exists. It was
Okay.
KRE, AM and FM, and I worked there for 4 years, and then went over to KSAN,
Now, in
which
what
was like
capacity? What were you doing?
I was hired as news anchor, co-anchor. I was, one of three anchors.
Oh, no, we're talking radio currently at
Radio,
this time. Okay.
yeah, but
Um,
newscasts at different times of the day. So I co-anchored the noon news, 4, 5, and 6 p.m.
wow. Now, how long did that last?
That job, 2 years.
Okay. How about radio in San Francisco in general? Because from what I'm reading, you've been there a while.
Radio in general, depending on if you add up all the part times and the full time, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, 25 years.
Now, were you a sports fan at the time? Now, just a reference, we're talking 60s and 70s, or
Oh no, I'm not that old. Let's see. This was, I moved here in 75. So my first radio job was later that year in June of 75.
okay, so
So we're talking
70s.
70s and 80s and
Okay,
into the early 90s a little bit.
okay. Were you a sports fan by any chance? I mean, you're
You know,
covering
my
news, so you
husband,
had to, you know.
yeah, my husband did a lot of work with the Oakland A's and then later the San Francisco Giants. So we spent a lot of time at the ballpark. It took me a while to, change my allegiances from the Red Sox to the
Mhm.
Oakland A's, but
Now, I bring it up because of the death of Willie Mays yesterday.
oh,
Yeah, the
what a
legend.
gem.
Yeah, I was just watching a
What
bunch of stuff
a
on him.
gem of a human. Yeah, the our whole area is in mourning, but wonderful life. He kept his association with the Giants right up until the end. I'm going to a game next weekend, and
Mm.
we're going to go visit his statue right out in front. It's Willie Mays Plaza, where
Yeah, I
the
mean,
ballpark is
I'm
located.
I'm originally from Pittsburgh, but he was such a big star. Him, Roberto Clemente. It's just like legendary stuff, and yeah, it's a shame. And not to be on the death train here, but Donald Sutherland died today.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I don't know where he's from, but it just it popped up. I was like, oh,
That's the
jeez.
thing, though. As we get older, everybody that we ever knew and liked is one by one going to.
I know
It's
it's like,
happening.
oh man, wow. Anyway, all right, so that's the death march. Anyway, so I mean, uh, I'm assuming you met celebrities in your job as a radio
Oh yeah,
host or whatever you want to say.
lots of celebrities.
Yeah, good.
Lots of
Anybody stand
celebrities.
out? Any rock stars or bands or anybody that stands out that you were like, wow, that person or band or what have you is
Well,
pretty
do
cool
stand out in what way? Because there
in
were
a good
some
way.
that stood out just because they were famous, and others because they were, incredibly nice people. Um, one hero of I did a number of in the earlier days feminist talk shows.
Mhm.
That was a thing, and so
Sure.
I interviewed Gloria Steinem and Jane Fonda and sort of all the icons of the early feminist movement in the 70s. Betty Friedan, you just everybody, and rock stars. Oh my gosh. Well, I didn't so much interview rock stars, but they would be at the station in,
Right.
in order to be like on a show with a disc jockey. So there were lots of those.
So you moved on to TV also, correct?
A little bit. I did. There was a show in the Bay Area called Evening Magazine, which in some markets was called PM Magazine. It was the
Yeah.
magazine
Okay.
format show, and I was the consumer reporter for that for a year or two, and did 4 minute features once a week on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think every city had the PM show,
It
pop
was
up.
the same show. It was all syndicated by Westinghouse, and
There you go.
they were all affiliated. Yeah.
What do you think about, fast forward to today, TV and radio? Is it just too much? Is it horse crap? I mean, I mean, there's good, there's bad, but there's so much. What do you think about it?
Well, I feel very grateful that I was able to be a part of that industry when there was still an opportunity to, for instance, attempt to be fair in your coverage.
Mhm.
We were
Sure.
regulated back then by the fairness doctrine. The FCC had a doctrine that ensured that if you were going to cover controversial issues, that you would make an attempt to cover both sides. All of that
Really?
obviously changed, and Reagan
Hmm.
deregulated broadcasting, among other industries, and that all gave birth to, for instance, right wing radio, where you have people just spewing what, in my mind, is often pretty vitriolic, but also often just false. It's like fake. So I'm not thrilled with the state of media these days at all. I'm really grateful that we have podcasts so that we can choose what we want to
Sure.
hear and from whom, and we know what the perspective is, so we can look at it appropriately through that lens. But yeah, it's really gotten crazy, and it's all about money. It's all
Absolutely.
about
It's
money. I mean, it
yeah,
was always about money to some degree, but not like now.
yeah, ratings and money, and what's going to draw the ratings, and say the most outrageous stuff, and is it true? I mean, you don't know. It's like sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, what? Some of these political commercials. Anyway, don't even get me started on that.
We
um,
sound like old people.
it's true. That is true. That is true. So tell us about your book, By Accident, A Memoir of Letting Go. Um, I know how that came about, but tell us, the listeners, how that came about.
Sure. I was always a writer, but never that kind of a writer. I wrote for media, for broadcast, and was a freelance writer for webcasts, webinars, all that sort of thing after I got out of radio. But somewhere in the back of my mind, there was always this thought that maybe I'd write a book someday. And then I had a period of 10 years that was just so incredible in terms of what I went through, what the universe dealt to me. The short story is that I had three immediate family losses in a 4 year period: my mother, my sister, and my brother. 2 years later, when I was really kind of getting back on my feet, back to work full time and up to speed, I was hit by a car as a pedestrian and sustained four pelvic fractures and other serious injuries, and also the trauma of it. And it really stopped me dead in my tracks. I'd always been a person in constant motion, trying to be the best at everything, trying to be a perfect daughter, wife, sister, mother, newscaster, whatever. At this point, it was 2012, and I was a program director at a nonprofit, working long, hard hours, loving what I was doing, but going just a million miles an hour.
Sure.
And this absolutely stopped me dead in my tracks. I couldn't do anything for myself. I couldn't get to the bathroom. I couldn't feed myself. And I decided somewhere along the line that I was going to use it as an opportunity for personal growth and see it as a way of, instead of experiencing post traumatic stress, I would experience post traumatic growth. That wasn't easy.
Nice.
And I was able to do it, I think, in large part because I had an incredibly supportive family, friend group, community. I had the resources to get help where I needed it. Um, and I made a complete recovery, only to get a big diagnosis 2 years later of colon cancer.
Hmm.
So, and then I went
Wow.
through that, and it ended up being stage 1, and I had surgery, and I was in good shape. And I don't want to give away all the major plot points in the book,
Sure.
but some other things happened, and I feel like I learned some lessons that are going to carry me through all of the different trials and tribulations that are going to be coming, because that's what life is, right? We get dealt a
Sure.
series of things that we can't control, but we can control how we respond. And, we can wallow in self pity, and that doesn't serve us very well. Um, there are tools and tricks that I learned and developed, skills that are continuing to serve me, because of course this was back in 2012, so it's already almost 12 years later. And they are things that I think if people read my book and pick up some of these ideas, they can help themselves to move through loss, pain, injury, illness, despair, all of it.
So, not to rehash every second, but you basically were walking across the street, someone speeding hit another car, the car hit you, boom,
Exactly.
right? Now, was there any
Car
accountability?
stopped for me. I was in a
Oh,
crosswalk, and just as I got directly in front of that car, which by the way was a sedan, which is relevant because if it had been an SUV, I would have been killed because I would
mm,
have gone right under. And instead, I would, because of where on my side the car hit me, I was thrown up onto the hood. A
mm.
truck came along at 50 miles an hour, not looking, and just slammed into her, and she slammed into me.
Now, was there any accountability for this person?
Yeah, first it was hit and run. He got out of his truck.
Really?
We think, excuse me, he was wearing Oakland A's regalia, a total outfit, head to toe. And the Oakland A's had just won some big, I can't remember if it was the pennant or what, but
Mhm.
so likely he had been imbibing. And he got out of his truck and told me I was okay. I was lying on the street, not okay. He told me I was okay, and he got back in his truck and split. And two people got his license number, two witnesses, and he was apprehended the following day when a sobriety test would have yielded nothing by
Right.
then. And he was convicted of two felonies, and hit and run with major injuries. And he plea bargained and served a couple of months and then got out.
Mm. So the book, it sounds like it's a way. I mean, that's pretty dramatic. You want to let go of stuff like that, not have anger, carry it on your shoulders. I mean, am I in the right sense of what?
No, really. First of all, it's very strange that I wasn't angry ever. People ask
Mm,
me this all the time. I just like anger just wasn't. I think I was just fighting for my survival, and so I didn't get around to being angry. What I was letting go of was the illusion that I could control things in my life. I always was kind of a control freak, and I felt like I was only as good as my performance and my output and how much I accomplished and how well I did at everything. And I needed to learn to let go of that and learn how to be still and learn how to find power in stillness. And so that's what I was really able to let go of more, this these demands that I had been putting on myself.
mm. Now, the book itself, where can people get this book? I mean, the obvious thing
Well,
is like
it's
online, but I mean, more specifically, where can people go and get this book?
it's on Amazon in paperback. Here's what it looks like. I'll hold it up for you. Looks like that.
I read the first
And
few pages. Yeah. I mean,
there it
on
is. And
Amazon. Yeah.
it's on Amazon. It's also an audiobook through Audible, which is also owned
Right.
by Amazon.
Sure.
And it's an ebook as well for Kindle readers. So you can get it in any of those forms. You can
Okay.
have any bookstore order it because it's got wide distribution. My guess is that bookstores in cities that I've not lived in or had any book events in, they probably wouldn't carry it unless you order it. But if you order it, they'll get it for you. So
Okay.
I'm all in favor of supporting our local independent bookstores.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Back in the early days, well, let me ask you this: Are you still? Do you still consider yourself a feminist?
Absolutely.
So back in the
Is there a
'70s,
feminist that ever didn't stopped
I
being
don't
a
know.
feminist?
I don't know. I don't know. Well, I guess I have a follow up question. I guess I didn't come at it the right way.
Sure.
Um, Back in '75, let's say, it was stay in the kitchen. If you had a job, you were a secretary. I'm not exaggerating, but in general, that was the you can do more. Obviously, you did more. Um, but nowadays, I'll take my situation. I work for a college. The president is a woman. The HR director is a woman. My dean is a woman. My supervisor is a woman. So things have changed in the positive. So what today is the feminist movement? What's the? I don't know. I can't think of the right word. Like, what's the complaint or what's the?
I'll give you two words: reproductive rights.
Okay.
We had them, we lost them.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, I think
Makes sense.
it's I was just reading today the number of women that had to travel out of state this year to get abortions because their states didn't offer it. And obviously, people who are lower income don't have that ability. So I would say that's number one. I think
Okay.
women still don't earn what men earned,
Why is
dollar
that?
for
Why?
dollar.
Why? Like, would like a? Uh,
Why is that?
I mean, like, if, for instance, let's do radio. Two people graduate: Joe Smith, Mary Smith. They go to a radio station, whether it's Frisco, Philly. I'm talking about contemporary times, and they qualify for the same DJ job or what have you. Isn't there like a checks and balances? Like, you can't give this person more because he's a
No.
man, or
Well, there's many jobs are union jobs, so there's a specified amount of money that someone has to make if it's a union job, but then that's just a minimum. And so if it's competitive and one market or one station is bidding against another, they can always offer more or
Mhm.
offer different package, that involves like a lot more vacation time or a car or whatever. Yeah.
Right, right. Some perks, as they like to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything else. I mean, sexism is absolutely alive and well. Like you've said, there's been tremendous movement and growth,
Sure.
and it's better than it used to be. But, women still pretty much run the home. And in many cases, they are running the corporation and the home, and have primary responsibility for the kids.
Mhm.
So we're getting better. I look at my daughters in law, and they are both very strong and powerful women. I think my sons wouldn't have been comfortable being with women who weren't those things.
Mhm.
And they figure out how to do it all, but they also have a lot of partnership in their husbands, and as did I.
True. True. Okay. Tell us about your podcast. I know you have more than one. All
Well, I
the F
do, but I'm
words.
only in production on one right now.
Is that
So
all the F
I
words?
no, the other one in this
Oh,
story. So all the F words is there's like 60 episodes that are up, and most of them are, just as good as they were the day that we published them. Um, all the F words is a discussion of issues starting with the letter F by two women who are 30 years apart. So it's a two generational take on subjects ranging from fanaticism and fundamentalism to feng shui and family feuds. And some of them are funny, and many of them are funny. And firearms, we do a whole thing on guns in this country. I mean, there's 60 different topics. So those are the ones that are popping into my head right now. And they are about half hour to 45 minutes in length. And we would alternate on who did the research. So there's lots of information and articles from which we drew, and links and TED Talks and articles and videos and all of that to go with it so that you really kind of learn about that subject. So
okay.
that's all the F words. And there's nothing racy about it.
Great title though. I
Um,
like it. I mean,
but that was, yeah, it was
better than all
designed
the
to make
G
people go,
words.
"Huh?" Yeah. Um, the one I'm working on now and having a wonderful time with is very short. Each episode is like 5 minutes or less. And it's called In This Story with Joanne Greene. And I started it because I write short form essays. They're like called micro essays or flash nonfiction. It's another name for them. And it's a particular art form where you're trying to have a whole story in a short amount of time. And I write them all the time and I record them. And my husband is a recording engineer and he produces them with music
Nice.
and sound effects and sometimes with original sound. If I'm doing something nostalgic, which often these are, talking about something that happened in the past, he'll find actual sound from that era or that event or that period and include that in it as well. So we have a really good time with these. And yeah,
Easy to find online, I'm assuming. I mean,
they are on all of the podcast platforms, everything from Spotify and Apple Podcasts to iHeartRadio, all of them. It's called In This Story with Joanne Greene.
got it. All right. Let's step off the subject matter to get to know Joanne a little better. I have a segment called This or That. I'm just going to give you some preferences, two choices.
Oh, fun.
And just, it's a fun thing. Doesn't mean you hate the other one, but, it's a preference thing. So, for instance, this or that, pizza or pasta?
Both. Um,
Got to pick one.
right this minute, pizza.
Oh, ouch. All right. I love I mean, I love both too, but I got to go pasta on that one. Anyway, beach or swimming pool?
Beach.
Are you near a beach currently? I mean,
45
living
minutes.
close enough.
But the water's really cold in Northern California, so we tend to not go to the beach here, but in Southern California, the water's a lot warmer, and in Mexico, it's just right.
Now, what's the area you're in again? What's it called?
Marin County, so it's
Marin County. Okay.
on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. It's just north.
Nice. All
It's
right,
where the redwoods are.
Okay. Okay.
Redwood forest. Yeah.
Driver or passenger?
Always driver.
All right. Rock or jazz? Preference.
Jazz.
Hmm. All right. The Stones or the Beatles?
Beatles.
That was quick.
That was quick. I've been asked that before.
Okay. Cat or dog?
Dog.
Dog. Dinner date.
I'm a dog fanatic.
Okay. How many dogs you have? You have one dog, two dogs?
One dog now, but right this very minute, two, because we are dog sitting for our son and his
Okay.
wife who are in Europe.
All right. Nice. Dinner date or movie date?
Dinner date.
Clint Eastwood or Robert Redford, as far as
Robert Redford.
career,
Robert Redford.
Mary Tyler Moore or Diane Keaton?
Ugh, love them both.
Yeah.
I'll go with Mare.
Okay. Robin Williams or Richard Pryor?
Both personal heroes. I've met them both.
Really?
May their comedic souls rest in peace. Well, Robin is from where I live.
Right, exactly. Not to interrupt, but he's my favorite of all time. I was in freaking mourning when it happened. My daughter called me, and I didn't think she was joking, but at the same time, I was like, I hope you're joking. But yeah, I mean, can you share a story? I mean, I know you don't want to.
Oh, well, it's so interesting because I heard his son speak like a week ago. His
really?
son is doing all this work with mental health. He too suffered from mental health challenges, and he's doing some amazing work now. Robin, well, there were a number of different ways. So in radio, first of all, when I was coming up at KSAN, Robin and many other comics would stop by. So I met
I
him
mean, that
that
was the peak
way.
of his, Mork and Mindy, boom, right at that time frame,
It was even
75 to
before
80.
that, yeah. Or
Okay,
yeah, I mean that he never wanted to talk about that period.
really.
He was people kept wanting to refer to him as Mork, and he
Well,
just
no, yeah, right, exactly right. He
but he
wanted
made
to
a
be.
lot of money, and that was good. But his movie career was really something, and his stand up career was
It's unbelievable.
incredible.
To me,
Right,
to
just
me,
incredible.
yeah, to me, I think his acting was underrated. I think he's a better actor than a lot of regular actors because he could do comedy and he could be fun. He could be serious, I guess, and he could do comedy. He could do both and very well. And I was like, he was one of the greatest actors ever. But you don't think of him, you know what I mean? You think of Robin Williams, oh, comedy, but acting was off the charts to me.
I agree with you. I agree
Yeah,
with you. But I gotta say, Richard Pryor, oh, painful, so funny.
yeah, yeah. Two great comedians. Let's see. Let's go since we're back in the 70s. This is again. Let's just pretend we are preference. Remember, this is preference. Peace, love, and flower power, or sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Why are they mutually exclusive? I'm gonna have to go with peace, love, and flower
All
power.
right. All right. Last one. San Francisco or Boston?
San Francisco.
Hmm. Been there
San
most of your
Francisco.
life, I'm assuming.
I've lived much more of my life here, and certainly my entire adult life here. I love Boston. I really miss the fried clams and really good pasta and pizza in the North End.
Been
Really
there,
good.
been
But
there, and yes, I agree. It
you've been
was
there?
yes, it's a feast of. Uh, I mean, just everywhere you turn, there's like so many restaurants. It was like God
Yeah.
Almighty,
Yeah,
great
it's
stuff.
wonderful. And I especially miss the summers. There's just something about the Atlantic Ocean in the summer. But I love it here. I just absolutely love it here.
Great,
And
great.
this has become home. It's where I raised my kids, and my kids now live in Los Angeles, so I go back and forth all the time.
Ah, okay, nice. Well, look, this has been great. I'm so glad you can make time out to come on and talk about your book, your podcast, and you know stuff in general. This is really enjoy it. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.